More and more players reaching the end game portion of Marvel Snap and having a little bit more collector's tokens available to them. One of the most important questions you're going to have to ask yourself month to month is which of the new Marvel Snap Series 5 card releases are you most interested in getting right away? For February, we already have Ghost and Stature released, with Kang releasing in less than a week. But with the patch that was released this week, we now know all of the Series 5 cards that will be releasing not only in March, but April as well. So today's video is going to give you a quick rundown of what cards you can expect to be coming to the game, so you can kind of map out where you want to be utilizing your collector's tokens in the not too distant future. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. The season pass card coming in March is going to be Nimrod, 5 energy, 5 power. When this is destroyed, add a copy to each other location. Obvious use case with this is it has potential inside of Galactus, but I am cautiously optimistic that perhaps a more honest destroy deck would be interested in playing this. Something that is noteworthy is if you play Nimrod on turn 5 and you follow it up with Arnim Zola on turn 6, you get to destroy this, creating 2 5-power Nimrods in each of the other locations. While this is a little bit less impressive than some of the other things you can do with Zola in the game, it is noteworthy that you're effectively getting 20 points worth of stats out of 2 cards, and these 20 points worth of stats do dodge Shang-Chi. Nimrod also looks like it will have potential with an upcoming Series 5 card release inside of March as well, and that is the Teenage Warhead here. 3 energy, 2 power. After any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. So this card is going to have a really interesting dynamic to it, and it feels like this one is going to be one that priority really matters for, right? Because I'd imagine if you have both players play to Warhead's path at the same time, whichever player has priority is going to get their card blown up first. So you could use this card as a means to control your opponent's plays into a particular lane, basically requiring them to sacrifice a smaller, cheaper card in order to get a bigger card into that path. But you could also use this as an enabler for your own destroy cards like Nimrod. You could play Warhead on turn 4, and then on turn 5, play Nimrod into Warhead's path and immediately blow it up, creating copies of that Nimrod across your other locations instantaneously. This means if you're someone that really enjoys the idea of a more honest destroy archetype being playable, leveraging Nimrod from the season pass next month, I would likely recommend considering saving collector's tokens for the Teenage Warhead as one of your pickups, because this will likely be a key piece inside of whatever that deck ends up looking like. Our next March Series 5 card doesn't have any synergy with the destroy cards like Teenage Warhead and Nimrod, but it could potentially breathe life into another Series 3 card that's currently bottom of the barrel, and that's Ronin. Ronin, for those not familiar, is kind of like an inverse Devil Dinosaur. It gets larger for each card in your opponent's hand. Master Mold, creating Sentinels, then create more Sentinels when they play them out, ensures under most circumstances that we're going to keep cards in the opponent's hand to make Ronin bigger. God forbid you get a copy of Beast or something that returns Master Mold to our hand in the mix, and suddenly your opponent's hand is going to be overflowing with Sentinels, not only making your Ronin larger, but also heavily restricting your opponent's ability to both play to the board and draw additional cards, past just putting more 3-power units into play. I don't know if this is going to necessarily be competitive, but it sounds kind of fun and obnoxious, and definitely something I'm looking forward to trying. The last Direct to Series 5 card for March is an interesting one that I don't actually think we can properly evaluate until we have some certainty on how it actually plays out inside of the game rules. So 1 energy, 0 base power. You can return this to your hand to give it +2 power. So the question in my mind that I'd love to hear in the comments down below how you think this is going to work is, for this to work, can I pull it back to my hand and then also replay it with the 2 additional power in the same turn? If this is the case, that means if Kitty Pryde is played out on the first turn of the game, we can essentially spend 1 energy on every subsequent turn to give it +2 stats, meaning we can spend 6 energy over the course of the game to effectively deploy 10 points worth of stats. This is a little bit below rate for a 6 drop in one go, but the fact that we're spreading out that 6 energy payment over the course of the entire game, I think probably puts it on rate, and that's even before you start considering synergies that Kitty Pryde will be able to have with other things like the Collector if you play that out on the second turn. While Kitty Pryde doesn't have any direct synergy with the other cards inside of the March releases, looking forward to April, Kitty Pryde seems like she's going to have a lot of potential with the April Season Pass card, and that is Hit Monkey. So 2 energy, 0 base power on the Hit Monkey. On reveal, gets +2 power for each other card you've played this turn. One of my favorite types of decks to play in Marvel Snap are ones that I typically refer to as build your own 6-drop, where your final turn of the game is kind of playing out 3 or 4 or even 5 cards, sometimes in this big flourish at the end of the game, putting a bunch of stats into board all at once, and Hitmonkey is going to play quite excellently right into that style of deck. The most obvious energy with Hitmonkey, past something like Kitty Pryde that you can easily pull back and play and have in your hand, is Mysterio. Mysterio and its clones count as playing out 3 cards, meaning if you just go Mysterio into Hitmonkey on the 4th turn of the game, Hitmonkey's going to have 6 stats for just 2 resources, which is immediately above rate. If you get absolutely crazy by mixing in things that were bounced with Beast or have their costs reduced by Quinjet, Hitmonkey could easily get into the double digits worth of stats under the right conditions, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Sandman buff, side grade, whatever you want to call it, that happened recently is something that Second Dinner did kind of in preparation of putting a safety valve into the game that's potentially reasonable for Hitmonkey's impending release come April. While Kitty Pryde doesn't have any direct synergy with the other cards inside of the March releases, looking forward to April, Kitty Pryde seems like she's going to have a lot of potential with the April Season Pass card, and that is Hit Monkey. So 2 energy, 0 base power on the Hit Monkey. On reveal, gets +2 power for each other card you've played this turn. One of my favorite types of decks to play in Marvel Snap are ones that I typically refer to as build your own 6-drop, where your final turn of the game is kind of playing out 3 or 4 or even 5 cards, sometimes in this big flourish at the end of the game, putting a bunch of stats into board all at once, and Hitmonkey's going to play quite excellently right into that style of deck. The most obvious energy with Hitmonkey, past something like Kitty Pryde that you can easily pull back and play and have in your hand, is Mysterio. Mysterio and its clones count as playing out 3 cards, meaning if you just go Mysterio into Hitmonkey on the 4th turn of the game, Hitmonkey's going to have 6 stats for just 2 resources, which is immediately above rate. If you get absolutely crazy by mixing in things that were bounced with Beast or have their costs reduced by Quinjet, Hitmonkey could easily get into the double digits worth of stats under the right conditions, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Sandman buff, side grade, whatever you want to call it, that happened recently is something that Second Dinner did kind of in preparation of putting a safety valve into the game that's potentially reasonable for Hitmonkey's impending release come April. As we move on to the direct-to-series 5 releases that have been data mined for April, the first one that I'm going to show you is very likely the most important, impressive, and sweet card to ever exist in Marvel Snap, and naturally, that's Jeff the Baby Landshark here. So 2 energy, 3 power, you can move this once, nothing can stop you from moving or playing this to any location. Professor X, no problem. Crimson Cosmos, no problem. Sanctum Sanctorium, no problem. Past just the obvious, this gets into places you need to get into, this is also another move on demand card similar to Nightcrawler that hopefully is going to help Miles Morales become more playable. That card has felt like it's just like one more playable, I get the ability to move around the board away from really being consistent enough to be played in powerful decks. And I think Jeff the Shark, along with the flexibility that provides to get into tricky spots, could be exactly what the doctor ordered for Miles Morales to become a real format staple. And Miles, for those not familiar, 4 energy, base 5 power. If a card moved last turn, costs 1. So Jeff the Shark getting to move around at will gives you kind of fine control over when Miles is going to be a 1 energy play for you, similar to how Nightcrawler does it for this card now. Speaking of Miles Morales enablers, we actually have another one coming in April, it looks like, in Stegron here. So 4 energy, 5 power. On reveal, move an enemy card from here to another location. So this is different than an effect like Juggernaut, for example, because Stegron here is moving a card that's already present, not just one that's being played out that turn. I would assume from the wording here that this is going to be a random card at the current location if they have multiple there, and the place you're moving it to is another random location. I'm honestly not sure offhand if this effect is powerful enough for the fact that this is a 4 energy card that only has 5 points worth of stats. I'd love to know in the comments down below if you think I'm missing something here, but this one's probably one to pass on as opposed to the other ones so far that have all seemed reasonable or interesting inside of niche spots. The last data mine that we have here, I would like to just give an extra reminder with that applies to all of the cards I've talked about today, is that these are data mines and these cards are subject to change before they release. That being said, by the time they are in the client with their silhouettes, they've usually remained about the same, but Snowguard here in particular has some conflicting numbers based on who's talking about the data mine. So 1 energy, 2 power card. When this is in your hand, it transforms into a hawk or bear each turn, and the hawk has the on reveal of ignoring all location abilities next turn. The stats here on Snap.fan have this listed as a 1 energy 2 power card, similar to the base Snowguard, but Marvel Snap Zone has the Falcon listed as a 3 energy 4 power card, which is different. I think I would expect the stats to be different on this card as opposed to the base Snowguard, but we'll have to wait and see when it actually releases. The bear has another location-based effect as well, with an on reveal being trigger the effect of this location. So something like Sakaar or, the Gamma Lab that turns things into Hulk, the Snowguard would make happen again, potentially, which seems powerful. Again, on Snap.fan here, this lists as a 1 energy 2 power card, but Marvel Snap Zone has it listed as a 5 energy 3 power card, which is quite expensive for an effect that may or may not be useful at times. So I'll be interested to see if this one is reasonable as well. Overall, looking at all of the upcoming data mines, I think Stegron as well as Snowguard are probably the ones that I'm least interested or excited about in terms of potentially building decks around or would recommend saving tokens for, but things could change, the metagame could develop in the meantime, so maybe we'll see a use for them between now and then that I don't currently have knowledge of at this current point in time. Well, that's all the speculative card releases coming for the next couple of months in Marvel Snap and the abilities they're currently data mined to have. I'd love to know in the comments down below if you think the Nimrod or Hitmonkey season passes are things that look to be worth picking up. And if you're someone that's going to be approaching the endgame status in Marvel Snap, which of the Direct to Series 5 cards you think you're going to consider prioritizing with your valuable collector's tokens. As always, thanks for watching all the way through the end. Hopefully see you back again real soon for some more Marvel Snap content here on YouTube.